This is It's Not in the Syllabus podcast, the how-tos of a student beyond classroom walls. This is the podcast where you, yes you, get to learn what they don't teach you at school and ace that test called life, or at least get a passing grade and get by. It's Not in the Syllabus is a podcast brought to you by the Adventist International Institute of Advanced Studies, together with the Student Association, where we feature stories by the students and for the students. Join us as we discover life lessons you'll surely need.
Welcome to another episode of It's Not in the Syllabus. We are in the month of May, and in the month of May we are discussing the issue in the church. And today we have a theme or a topic which is the use of jewelry. I understand that in many particular places they have this discussion, the use of jewelry, the use of makeup, is it a sin or not a sin? And today we are going to understand this particular issue in the church. And with me I have two special guests coming all the way from the Apply department here at AIIAS. I'm talking about Dr. Victoria Aja and Pastor Ashok. Is that correct?
Yes.
Let me briefly introduce them to you. I know Dr. Victoria Aja comes all the way from Nigeria. One thing I know she's passionate about is chaplaincy, and she teaches here in the Apply department. While Pastor Ashok, she comes from India and has been working all capacity of the church. He has been working as a district pastor and also as a president.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Yes.
So how are you guys doing?
Yeah, we are doing good.
Good. We are going to have a conversation, so loosen up, just enjoy. And we are going to understand the use of jewelry. Just to begin our conversation, how can we define jewelry? Maybe let's begin with Dr. Victoria Aja.
Thank you very much and for giving us this opportunity to share. Jewelry, we can see it as an ornament,
Okay.
worn on the body
All right.
or on clothes.
All right.
Okay, and they are in various shades and different types.
Okay.
We have like necklaces, rings,
Or have a ring here.
okay, bracelets, and which some people call bangle.
Bango.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you, Dr. Victoria. What about for you, Pastor? How do you define jewelry?
Jewelry is something that is visible to
Okay.
people.
Visible to people. I like
And
that.
jewelry is, if you get into the core of the subject,
Mhm.
jewelry is only human-made things.
Oh,
It is
human.
not divine. There are certain things that we classify as divine and human.
Mhm.
So jewelry has nothing to do with the divine things.
Okay.
It's only a human thing.
All right.
That it came, I can elaborate it and I can say this jewelry came after the sin.
After sin. So before sin, there was no jewelry.
There was no
There was
jewelry.
only vegetables.
Exactly.
All right. Now, I think from what I can get from the conversation is ring can be a jewelry,
A jewelry.
bracelet, and necklace. Now, when we go to the
And earrings.
hearings, thank God none of us have one, but I've seen people do
Yeah.
have maybe on campus and off campus. But when we go to the Adventist fundamental belief, in particular belief 2022, Christian behavior, and also the Adventist manual, it actually both of them forbids the use of jewelry. So how can we understand when the fundamental beliefs and the church manual forbids the use of jewelry, and while in some places people do use jewelry? So how do we understand that particular differences when it comes to the use of jewelry? Yes, anyone can pick up from this.
Yes, ma'am, you can go ahead.
All right. You are right.
Mhm.
I will use the word discouraged. Discouraged.
Okay.
The use of jewelry.
Mhm.
And that is also, we find the principles
Okay.
in the Bible.
All right.
Yes, we have like maybe First Timothy
Okay.
talking discouraging outward adornment.
Mhm, mhm.
Discourage the use of jewelry and all of those things, especially when it is to attract attention
Mm.
to ourselves.
Okay.
It's discouraged.
Okay.
And also we can see that the church allow it in places where it is considered, how do I put it, a criterion for virtue, like a wedding ring.
Okay.
Maybe like in India, maybe
Yeah.
Pastor will talk more about that.
Sure.
In that case, it is not considered an ornament,
All right.
because it is considered as what do I put it now? A criterion for
Criteria.
virtue. When people see it, they know that you are married. Okay.
Okay.
So in that case, it is allowed. But generally, the church forbids or discourage
Okay.
the use of jewelry. And we have many biblical principles
Okay.
that we can use to support that. For example, in Isaiah, I
Okay.
think that is chapter 3, verses 16 to 24, we could see God talking about the daughters of Zion, because when they wear these things, the intention is to attract people to themselves. They want to look good.
Okay.
And because of that, it went ill with them. Okay, so I can
Wow.
say that.
There are more that I will have to ask, but let me just
Okay.
hear from Pastor Ashoki. So tell me, how can we understand this particular issue when there are different places in the world applying the use of jewelry?
Yeah, you are correct when you mention about church manual and Adventist beliefs 22. See, we as Adventists, we have worldwide presence.
Okay.
We operate in 13 divisions.
Okay.
We operate in 250 countries. So our divisions and our countries come from different cultures, different background, different ethnic groups. But as a church, we have a church manual, which is a guiding factor for all the churches in the local churches. And then our beliefs have come from the scriptures. As ma'am said, it has come from the scriptures. Scripture always advises and it discourages the use of jewelry. But in certain cultures, like in Indian culture, only one marriage symbol is allowed. Either it is a ring or is it a gold chain for ladies. In India, if you see, the women wear a marriage symbol. Men will not wear any symbols.
Okay.
But in the Western culture, if you see, men wearing ring,
Definitely.
denoting that they are married or means they are family men. But in the East, you don't see any men wearing ring.
Okay.
When you see a man wearing ring in the East, that means he's a rich man and he's showing off. It's not a marriage symbol. In the West, it is a marriage symbol.
Okay.
But if you see in the West, if a lady is wearing gold chain, it's something strange. But in the East, the gold chain is a symbol of marriage.
Married. It means she's taken.
Yes.
In the Philippines, the new generation, I don't know if it's been the past, but I seen the new generation, when they get married, they exchange watches. So there will be silver watch. But Dr. Victoria, you mentioned there are biblical principles that forbids the use of jewelry. I don't recall, but I remember that David one of his wife, she used jewelry, and it seems that there was not an issue. So when it comes to the New Testament, it becomes a little bit of abolished, that they discourage, as you mentioned, that we should not use jewelry. So how can we, well, we're not going to the interpretation of the text, we'll have to invite some biblical department, but how can we apply these two principles when in the Old Testament God allowed the use of jewelry, while in the New Testament it was not, it was abolished? So how do we put these two? I think that's where maybe the issue is coming from.
Well, I'm not a specialist in OT or NT, and I have not actually maybe read about where God abolished jewelry in the New Testament. And we cannot also say that God allowed it in the New and in the Old Testament. I will just stay with those principles, okay, that made the church to discourage the use of jewelry. We can also see, maybe I think that when Jacob was to appear before the Lord, yes, God asked him to put away all the idols, and then he also put away the earrings. He removed all those things from the ears, from the body of his family members to appear before the Lord. And I think that is one of the reasons. And one thing I want to say is that all of these things can lure us away from God, because we can become addicted to all these things that we are talking about, spending a lot of money to buy all of these things, to impress people, to look good. And if the church says moderate use, how moderate is moderate?
Yes.
So I think these are some of the reasons that they discourage the use of jewelries.
Good.
And then we can also see, I think, Pastor, I think there's another Bible passage. We have 1 Peter 2, verses 1 to 4.
Okay.
That also talked about the need to do away with jewelry.
Okay.
Because of the Ashok, it could wreck, like the daughter of Zion.
Okay.
Because of all these things, it's no longer about God, it's about beauty.
So it's about oneself.
Yes, oneself.
But then maybe the question comes: is it bad to look beautiful in the eyes of God? But that would be
No, it is good to look good, Pastor. It is good to look good, but modesty, moderation in everything. And maybe I can now share my own experience.
All right.
When I got married, I didn't wed with a wedding ring.
Okay.
We exchanged the Bible. Because in my country you can exchange Bible, and that is encouraged rather than use a wedding ring. But I love rings, I will tell you honestly.
I see.
Yes, I love rings. And after our marriage, I told my husband I want a ring, and then we bought one.
All right.
And I fell in love. And though that one got lost, maybe I was careless, I don't know, but I kept buying rings, and I can show you some of these things here.
Wow.
And I'm talking about it can lure us away. It can become a snare to us.
Wow.
So I used to buy expensive one, and then non-expensive. I have different kinds.
I see gold and silver.
Yeah, and when I wear them, I can glance at my hand maybe 3 times a day. I just want people to see.
Can we see one? Can you just maybe for the camera there? Wow. And I see this one, it's is it diamond, Doctor?
Yeah, but because I've kept them for long, and this is steel.
Wow.
Yeah, so I have them.
Nice.
So one day I slept, and then an elderly pastor appeared to me and said, all these things that you put on, and they are taking the attention away from God, and you are, drawing attention to yourself. So I woke up. But I said, no. I cannot listen to this pastor because of A, B, C, D. I know this pastor. He is not also a saint. But behold, after my morning prayer, I turned on my radio. What they were talking about, it's jewelry. They were talking about jewelry and discouraging it. So I said to myself, God must be speaking to me.
Amen.
And also within me, I know that it's already becoming, I don't know, maybe you give me the word. I became attracted, and I just want to do like this. I want to show off. And that is not Christian virtue, and I pray about it. It's been almost 2 years now, and God just helped me to overcome. So I don't wear those things again. All right. So I just want to share that it can draw us away from God. It can become a snare to us, and we spend a lot of money just to enhance our look, to look good. We can look good without all these things. Simplicity is what the Bible and the spirit of prophecy encourages.
Wonderful.
Just want to share that.
It's a good testimony. And when you were sharing your testimony, I was like, oh, doctor kept it. I mean, she's not using it. Maybe there will be a day where the temptation...
No temptation.
Isn't it better to throw them away?
Over 2 years now. No, I just keep them.
Thank you. Over to you, Pastor Achoki. We're talking about some biblical text. Maybe you can guide us into that idea, because we as a church, we need to understand where we stand. The reason why is I've seen and been to churches where back home in Angola where these issues are prominent, because some of those who are bringing this particular issue, mostly advocating the use of jewelry, are individuals who have gone study abroad.
Mm.
So they've learned from different culture, different people, different places. So they'll say, no. If in Europe I can wear jewelry, if in America I can wear jewelry, why can't? When I talk about jewelry, is hearing and necklace, because we do use rings symbolizing that we are married. So, but why can't I use it? Why can't I use hearing? So how do you demonstrate based on the Bible those principles that you say no, it shouldn't be the way?
Yeah, let me clarify one thing, that God did allow jewelry in the Old Testament, and God discouraged in the New Testament. This theory is completely wrong.
Okay.
Because God never changes himself. If he says no in the beginning, it is no until the end.
Okay.
It doesn't change like human beings. So jewelry comes in two forms to children of Israel.
Okay.
One is when they were worshipping the idols.
All
If
right.
you observe all the idols, like the idol of Baal, Asheroth, all these idols have jewelry. The followers of these idols have to go with the jewelry to please their God. So when children of Israel learned these practices in Egypt, with Assyrians and Amalekites, all these people had the jewelry. So it is an imitation. It is not by God's command. It is an imitation of other people, the other gods. So when you come with the same jewelry to God's temple, God is not happy with that, even in the Old Testament.
Okay.
But if you can say there are 2-3 texts that people give jewelry, it was encouraging. No, it was practiced, only the culture was there. There was no divine thing in that. It's only human thing.
Okay.
So in the New Testament, the disciples had different challenges, because people were converting from Greek background, the Roman background, and the Samaritans, and the Gentiles, and the Jews were converting. All these people were getting inside the church. The church was becoming a global church. Now the church has to make some kind of resolutions to avoid confusion. So Peter is writing Paul is writing 1 Timothy 2:9. He clearly says that you should not have a braided hair or gold or pearls or costly attire. All this because Paul was establishing churches in different places, in different cultures. But he was carrying with him the biblical culture, the biblical teaching of jewelry. So jewelry, if you take in any culture, you see the jewelry is associated with idols, especially in India. Those who are converting from Hinduism to Christianity, they have this orientation of idols. All the jewelry is identified with idols. So when you come into the Christianity, if you carry your old practices, then it becomes like you are not completely converted. I'm not blaming any church members or any young people. I'm just only concerned about the pastors who are supposed to disciple them, who are supposed to nurture them, who are supposed to teach them. This is not the way. As ma'am said, she has overcome the temptation. There are maybe some people who want to overcome the temptations. But maybe pastors are telling it's okay, you can have it, because the wrong understanding of the Bible.
Okay.
Bible never ever advocate jewelry.
Good. I'll come back to the same biblical understanding of the use of jewelry. Not to say that I disagree. I completely agree with what you're advocating and what the Bible advocates. But then when we go to the book of Exodus chapter 14, we have a story that Moses went to get the 10 Commandments. Aaron is faced with the congregation. And they're asking, give us a God that may go before us. So Aaron asked them, bring all your earrings. Now, we can stop there. So all this way that God was working with his people, they were using jewelry. So now Aaron is asking, give me all your jewelry, that I should make a God before you. And God was displeased, I will not say with the act of jewelry, but with the act of them making a God. So when one reads that particular passage, you will say, okay, so if they used, why can't I use?
Okay, let me answer that question. See, it was only a few days of journey. If you see the context of Exodus chapter 12, 13, 14. From 12, if you see, they were experiencing series of miracles. The crossing the Red Sea, Then God was giving them water which was bitter. Now it turns into sweet. And He gives them manna, everything. It was something very new. And they were getting into the relationship with God.
Okay.
Now Moses goes on to this Mount Sinai. 40 days he spends there. And God is in the transformation time. He's transforming them.
All right.
Now these people, from where did they got the idea of making a golden calf? Because they observed it in Egypt.
Okay.
If you carefully notice the Bible, when children of Israel left Egypt, there were some Egyptians along with them. They came. We call them as mixed group. So these are the people who are advocating that we should make a god. Now, my question is, how did Aaron know this golden calf is a god? He would have observed in Egypt, because Egyptians worship the cow, the moon, the frog. All these are gods for them. So when Aaron melted all this jewelry and made a golden calf, and they started to worship. Now their practice is not at all gone. They were following God, but their hearts were not following God.
They were following God with the Egyptian mindset.
Exactly. This is what we call, they were not still contextualized.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
maybe I can add to that, because this story, the story also has a background.
Yes.
When they were leaving Egypt, God asked them to go and collect all those things from the Egyptians.
Yes.
So it was God who said collect them. But for what reason? I can say, fast forwarding, I could say that it's for the building of the temple. Because when the temple was about to be built, they brought all of those things.
Yes.
But because they have seen from Egypt, 400 years in Egypt,
Yes.
it's not a joke. So they learned the culture.
Yes.
And I believe they were also using it. But I would want to say the intended purpose of collecting all those things is to beautify the temple later.
Nice. Now, how can we then, based on what we're talking about, how can we convince young people who say, okay, I see that my church is divided when it comes to this issue, because when I go study in America, I go to Adventist church where people are using jewelry, and if we have to put a bracket, by the time we're saying jewelry, is mostly the hearing, because we understood that the ring and the watch is basically symbolic for the wedding in most particular places. But people will say, okay, I want to use hearing. So how can we then convince and teach young people out there how to really see the use of jewelry as a church abolish it from the word to go?
Yeah, one thing is, when you bring the young people into the church, it's not a conversion like Paul or Saul turning into Paul. It doesn't happen like that. It needs to be lot of discipleship. We need to teach them. We need to nurture them. They are new converts into the church. So these old practices may be very hard to go away with them. But as Ma'am has told, a pastor is coming and giving a Bible study about it, talking to young people. Now young people in this postmodern culture, they want a relationship. If you prove something from the Bible, they say, okay, it's there. I'm here. But when you make a relationship with them, when you make them to understand that God is more important than your appearance, people will really convince.
Good.
I have worked with some young people who are always addicted with jewelry. Now they have left it.
Okay.
They said, Jesus is everything for me.
All right.
Amen.
Wonderful. So, Doc, how can you tell your daughter is, let me see, Joyce. I hope Joyce is not watching this.
Yeah.
How can you tell Joyce, this is not the way of doing things. It's not the way we can't use jewelry. So how do you tell her that?
Yeah, I think it's good you mention her name, because it's one of the discussions, even with the senior sister at home, talking about all of these things. And then they also have Bible passages to support, for young people, because it's not only about those that are converted, even our children.
Those who grew up.
Who grew up in the church,
system.
even pastors' children, chaplains' children, because of the media and what they hear, and also because there's no clear-cut no, like thou shalt not kill. It's not written thou shalt not wear jewelry. but we have all the principles in the Bible. For the youth, I think it begins when our children are growing up. To teach them, to tell them, it's insufficient to say we don't wear,
All right.
but why we don't. So we need to teach them right from young age. Even the church pastors and the youth pastors, these are some of the Bible studies they can give to tell the young people why we don't wear jewelry.
All right.
And then when our youth confront us with this kind of question, we also need to be patient with them. We need to ask them, maybe, why are they asking? What do they know? What do they think? And when, after sharing, then we can take them through the Bible and share with them what we know. And if we don't have, the knowledge about it, we can tell them, why not we talk to a pastor or somebody who is knowledgeable? Let's make it interesting, because you cannot fight the youth. You cannot coerce them into anything. Like he said, we need to disciple them. I think you use a word that I like. What is that
Nurturing.
word? Nurture. To nurture them. They want a relationship. That's the word I'm looking for. So we relate with them, and then we are very nice to them. We take them through. It's not by arguing with them. And then we can pray with them. And praying with them is not condemnatory prayer that Father change Joyce's mind. I'm not saying Joyce is that she uses. I'm just using because
I just mentioned a name. Yes.
So we can pray, but not condemnatory prayer. But in our private home, we can pray for them, for God to touch their heart, to give them understanding. I think what helped me is prayer. Definitely. Because I pray about it. Because it's really, I won't say luring me away from God, but I'm becoming addicted to it. I love it. I want to show off that I have something. So we can pray for the youth, for especially those who are tilting towards using these things. I
mean, there are more we could just discuss it, and I really appreciate, because I've seen what Dr. Aja and Pastor saying is that we should be open to ask them why, and I see some chaplaincy principles in the dialogue. But as we're coming to an end of this discussion, I see the use of jewelry as a thin line where cultural intelligence should come in between. Because if I go to the Philippines, and I've gone to different churches in the Philippines, sometimes I have to take the ring. Not because it's bad, but they are not used to it. So how can we become cultural sensitive to this issue when if I go to my place, it's normal, but if I go to a different place, then it's forbidden? So how can we be cultural sensitive as we're coming close to this conversation?
Yeah, I think Paul is very good in contextualization and culture sensitive. He says, I become a Jew to a Jew. I become a Roman to a Roman. I become a Greek to Greek. What's the purpose? To win somebody to Christ. So I have this cultural sensitive, not to hurt anyone, but to win someone for Christ. If I become a stumbling block, rather I'll avoid it. See, for example, when I go to India, though culture allows me, but the Bible doesn't allow. I will never do that. Because there is a biblical principle. Every biblical principle is above the culture. And no culture is above the biblical principles. Every culture is contaminated with sin. You take any cultures. But we cannot take this is a norm of the culture. This is a culture that we should follow. No. But the Bible has a principle that it applies, that it overrules all the cultures.
So the Bible is above every culture.
Exactly.
I like that. Thank you, Dr. Aja.
Yes, for me, I am aware. I know that the church allows it. Yes, maybe like wedding ring or necklace, for wedding. Yeah, I know, but many people may not know. And you've talked about the youth. What do we need to do? Like you said, we need to be open. We need to let them know that this is what the church says about jewelry, especially wedding rings and all of those things. And then when we tell them, when we teach them what the Bible says, where they will not be taken aback, or they will not have this cultural shock when they see other people wearing it. And maybe they will just say, okay, the church allows it for this purpose. Okay.
All right. Because there are times when one comes to a church with hearings, we tend to look so suspicious, like maybe this one is lost. but it shouldn't be the case. I appreciate your time. I believe we could have expanded more. Maybe we think of a second part of this conversation, but I appreciate, because I've learned a lot. I think it enhances my learning, and even if I go out there and start having this debate with young people, I know where to stand from now. Not like I did not know where to stand, but I believe from this conversation I was able to gain more insight, particularly the cultural sensitivity that is around our church, making sure that the culture that remains in the Adventist church is the Bible, is God. So with that, we conclude with this episode of It's Not in the Syllabus. Until then, God bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye.